This sweet little nib right here, I want to see if it fits in anything. Won't fit here. It's a number 2 wall, and it's a manifold nib, but it's excruciatingly fine, and I want to just try it out. And it's one of these nibs that doesn't necessarily fit into another number 2 slot. And why would that be, do you ask? Do you know the reason for that? I'll tell you the reason for that. Because the piece of gold is really thick. Here, does it fit in this Waterman? It'll fit in the Waterman just for me to see if I like it or not. It's pretty cool. Very fine. I occasionally get into these, want to write with the thinnest, tiniest nib as I can find. And this is a pen that, I don't know, someone might want for some reason. Nib, rather, that someone might want for some reason. And that someone might be me. But because the nib itself is made of a thicker piece of gold, because it's a manifold nib, so they make it more robust than a flexible nib, it doesn't automatically fit into a wall over sharp body. So I'm looking for a wall over sharp body to put it in. Where are my wall over sharps? There's some right here. That's number 3. That's number 4. These things, they all look alike to me, but they're not. I mean, this one is this. Okay, which went with which now? This 3 and this 4 are in the same sized pen. They probably shouldn't be, right? Is this a number 2? That's a number 3. Is this a number 2? Number 3. Give me a number 2. Can you find me a number 2 nib? That's a number 2. Okay, so number 2 nib, this one, the nib that's in this pen, does that. Perfectly nice thing for a number 2 nib to do. Let's see if this number 2 can fit into the pen. And whether I want this nib in this pen or that one. This one I can sell all day long because it's a nice flexible nib. This one I can't sell all day long. So I think I'll keep this one just because it's making me smile today. It's really quite a lovely nib. So one of the things I want to do, and this is something I try to do every chance I get, and it lasts for about this long, and then I forget about it, is take my collection of 3,000 pens and try to remove 20 of them from the collection. And how do I do that? I end up usually taking one out, and then I find two more that I want to keep, and I bring them into the collection. So, but I've mentioned this before in terms of how can I combine, let's say these are all number 2s. They're not, but let's just pretend they're all the same pen. Which one am I going to keep? I don't need 4. Do I need even 2? Let's say I want to make earrings one day out of a pair of pens. But let's just pretend that these are all the same. First of all, I'll write with them and find out which nib I like. Then I'll look at them and I'll say, this one is perfectly fine, but it's kind of boring. Doesn't have an engraving on it. I like pens that have engravings on it. So maybe what I'll do is I'll say I'll sell this one and keep this one because this one has a beautiful engraving. But it has some plating wear back there. Does that bother me? No. I might end up keeping the things that pen collectors like you and you want the pens to be in perfect shape, no engravings, no plating wear, and you want everything to be perfect about it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. That's not me. I'm happy to have issues with a pen. This I do not like. This has no lever, and the reason it's in my collection right now is I can't sell it to anyone, so it might as well be in my collection. It has quite a lovely, snappy semi-flex nib on it, and I can use this one at my pen table, where most of the time when I'm there, I end up dipping it anyway. This one, safety first, it says. That's really cool. This originally came on a different pen. It originally came on Colonel Frisbee's pen. Where's Colonel Frisbee? This cap, when I bought it on eBay, was originally on this pen. But what I did was I swapped them out, because this one, when it was on the original pen, it didn't thread at all. But this pen threads on this barrel, and this cap threads on this. So though Colonel Frisbee was the winner of the Safety First Award, now Glenn Myers is the winner of it. So we have some revisionist history going on. If someone researches Colonel Frisbee's life, in 1926 he was awarded the Safety First Prize for his ability to control his troops during the riot, or whatever safety first even means. But anyway, now someone researching Glenn Meyer will Myers will unfortunately never find that he got a safety first award because he didn't. But that doesn't bother me. I can do these swaps. Other collectors, other dealers do it too. If a pen is missing a cap, they'll find a cap and they'll screw it together and call it a day. Sometimes it works better than others. Sometimes you see there is a slight difference in this pairing. Looks pretty good. This one, the cap looks a little bit more worn than the barrel. That doesn't bother me. You know, when it comes time for me to sell this pen, and if it bothers someone else, that's perfectly fine. I don't mind if it bothers people. If I have both of the pens for sale, I'll say, you know, this pen came with this and this came with that, and I can swap them back for you right now if you want me to. So far, what have I done? I like this cap, and I like this name, Colonel Frisbee, but they can't go together. They don't go together. So this is where I'm stuck right now. What about this one? This has no name and no engraving. So this one maybe will be the one that I would sell, because it's boring to me. Should I bring this into the sale bin? Has a beautiful nib. Then the thing is, I'll bring this to a pen show and someone will try it out and then they'll say, gee, it's really kind of nice. And then I might say, well, you know, walk around the show, come back. I'm sure this will be here when when you return, and then I'll put it in my pocket and I'll buy it from myself. Now, sometimes I do that. If I do say I'm going to hold a pen for someone, I actually do hold it. I'll say, walk around the room. If you can't find something better than this one, I'll sell you this one. And I'll hold it aside. I won't sell it to anyone else. But please let me know in an hour if you want it or not. That gives you time to see if you can find something you like better or cheaper or whatever you want. But I do have a need to sell and make some money on these things. This is a lovely nib. God damn it. Why do I like so many of these? So I may, and you know, again, if I wanted to get rid of some of these and have 2 rather than 4 identical pens, I might, like as I did just here, swap out a nib, pick the best nib of the 4, put it in the one of the 2 I'm keeping, and sell the others. This is another name on it. P.F. Davies. No, F.G. Davies. I'm not getting very far, am I? In my attempts to get rid of things. When your paper has been so covered by the oils of one's hand, the ink doesn't really want to go onto the paper. So let's find a piece of paper that doesn't have that issue. See, it writes here, but it doesn't write here. That's because there's oils on of my fist on that thing. So, what about this pen? Another initials on it. Well, I think I'm not going to get rid of any of these yet. But at least I found a nib. I took a nib that I think I can sell more easily, and I'm keeping this nib, which this might be a mistake. I might, tomorrow take this nib out and put in the other one. There's something really kind of neat about this really, really fine nib. Fine manifold nib. It's just slightly the tines were not quite lined up. So by rocking the nib back and forth, you can resetting the nib will do it. But right now, this nib is pretty darn sweet. It's just amazing. Just amazing, these things. Okay, this is not the same. None of these are the same. These are all different. And what's different about them, you ask? Well, they have different patterns to them. And do I need all of them? No. Do I want all of them? Yes. This is the pattern I like the least. This just has a little bit too much of the Victorian in it. It's just a little too fancy. It's like the waterman or the wall people said, we need something that's fancier. It has little flowers and shit in it, little doodads. So it's this Art Deco. I don't know, was this the wedding bell? There's people, Todd Merrill, where are you? He'll say what this pattern is. I call it kind of fugly. It's just trying to be too nice, too pretty. And you don't have to be pretty. What a sweet nib this is. The really fine, and a nice spring to it. So that's a good nib. Okay, this is an Eversharp Skyline nib, which looks to be one of these kind of nibs that I find the least attractive. A little broad. It might be a good one for sketching because it's very rounded. The ball of iridium is very rounded, so I think it can be shoved around the piece of paper without snagging the paper. You can even, I'm pressing down going uphill, which I would never do with 99.9% of pen nibs, but I can with this one. So this may migrate from here to a pen I would draw with more readily. All to this nib. Oh, and it has initials on it, MWB. Melvin Ward Bradshaw. Okay. really good sketching pen. Good for drawing as well, I think. The fine is a little bit broader than a calligrapher might want, but it's a really good pen for sketching. I'm not getting very far, am I? I've only taken one nib. This is another pattern I don't really like. Todd Merrill, you can tell the folks at home what pattern this is. How difficult would it be for me to learn what these patterns are called? These are these sort of things that I don't really care about. This one is kind of neat. And again, this is something that only I find interesting. I'm the only one on the planet that would like this one, I think. And it's just the wear that you see here that you don't see anywhere else on the cap. The person who owned this pen held it this far back, because this is really worn down. You do see people, sometimes even calligraphers, holding the pen like this, like they're going to pound a stake into Dracula's heart. And it just hurts me to see people hold a pen that way, because the pen doesn't like it. That's for damn sure. You don't draw vertically. You do with maybe Japanese ink brush. You might do it with rapidograph pens. You can do it with a ballpoint pen, certainly. But with a fountain pen, that is not how to hold the pen. You hold it like this. And anyway, this person held it here rather than here. Most people hold the pen by the section, the grip section. But this person, this is very worn down. So I like the fact that you see the history of its life a little bit. Okay, what do we have here? Another name. A.O. Eliasson. Now what's neat about this inscription, I can tell that this person who owned this pen was left-handed. How do I know that? Well, I don't know that as a matter of fact, but there was we bought the people in my building bought a vintage pen from me to give to someone that helped us develop this building as a thank you. And we had it engraved with his name. So I brought it down to the jewelry department in the place in Boston where they engrave things, the jeweler's building. And I found an engraver and I said, can you put this guy's name on this thing? And he did. And I went back the next week to pick it up and I brought it over to George at the Bromfield Pen Shop. And he said, they did it upside down. And I said, what do you mean they did it upside down? Well, if you're right-handed and you're holding a pen, this is upside down. Now, if you're right-handed and all you want to do is look at the pen, and you're looking at the pen like this, with the cap on the back, toward that way, then it's right side up. But George told me, he said, you have the name engraved, so when it's in your hand, you see it. And here you see it correctly if you're left-handed. Where's the hell is it? See, left-handed. So this guy, if this was done correctly, according to George, A.O. Eliasson was a lefty, a southpaw. That's kind of neat. Meanwhile, IFB was a right-handed dude or dame. These pens, one of the flaws of this pen, and there's really kind of only one flaw in the design, was quite often you'll see right here in the middle of the cap, you'll see little funny little bumps. You see those little lines right there? You see them, I had them on an earlier batch I was showing, and what is happening right there, that's where the inner cap ends. So when you screw this thing together, that bit meets the inner cap, which is hard rubber. I'm just looking at this. This nib looks like the Concorde airplane snout. When they would land, they would rotate it down so they could see what they were doing. This pen had a trauma. Anyway, the moisture of the section on the nib, it's meeting right there, and it's corroding it from the inside. So one day I'll unscrew this pen and the whole top of the pen will fall off. Now that day will probably happen long after I'm dead. But this is a flaw waiting to happen. And sometimes you see that more obviously than other times. Okay, where are we? We're now on this one. Little silver fill, I suppose, rather than sterling. No name on this one. A nice broad-ish flexible nib. This is a nib that Dr. C would love, I think, but unfortunately it's on this pen and I'm going to keep it here for the moment. Many of you know that I like often putting a sort of broad stubby nib into a short stubby pen because I just like how the combination of both the weight forward, focus forward aspect of a stub nib and a short pen really makes me think and draw in a certain way. So that's kind of cool. Another silver fill, or okay, this is another beautiful nib. Looks like it needs to be reset. It's sticking out a little bit too far. I mean, you can see sort of, I mean, it works perfectly fine. It just could be pushed in a little bit further, but it's okay, as is. RLB, this is the initials of one of my best friends in high school. Richard Larry Baldwin, if you're watching this, hi. I haven't seen him in 50 years. Really nice nib. This, again, is one of those nibs that I would love to draw with. I could just shove this nib around and press down and not worry about it snagging the paper or breaking the nib if I hit a little bump, because it's just really, really sturdy. I guess this is the last one of this bunch. Again, there's no name on it. Boring. It's really a beautiful pen. It's in great condition. One ding. Okay, there's a ding right there. You can make up a story. He was in a gangland fight, and a bullet, his pen saved him from death. The point of the bullet passed through his tweed overcoat and his wool houndstooth jacket, his wallet, his rolled up Wall Street Journal in his pocket, his waistcoat, and just that very tip of that bullet hit that. So a cross section of, here's the chest of the humanoid. Then he has a shirt, and then he has a waistcoat that's made of, has a lining, and it has, maybe 2 level layers of wool. Then he has his jacket that has, there's wool, and then there's the pocket, and there's wool, and there's the wallet, and there's all the stuff. And then there's the overcoat, which is even fatter. So all this, and here's the bullet as it's aiming toward this guy's. And then here's his shirt, and for some reason this is in his shirt pocket. So there's the pen, and the bullet goes through here all the way through, and just the very tip hits that little spot right there. So this pen saved his life. We could pretend. Why not? It's a good story. Can't sell that pen because it has a fun story to it. This has lots of little dings. And these look more like they were, the pen fell on the ground and the dog started chewing it. That looks more like teeth marks to me. Again, a pattern I do not like. Vertical lines with these little squiggly lines in between and more vertical lines. It's just, it doesn't do it for me, this particular pattern. Really nice nib on it. But I'm keeping it because I don't have this little pattern on another pen. It's unique to me, so we'll keep it. I really like these vertical chased just for vertical lines. It just adds a very simple texture to the pen. Difference between the shiny and the matte, we could call it. And it's one of my favorite patterns because of its simplicity. No name. Billy. Look at that. What a great name. Billy. Billy used his pen a lot. There's a lot of wear there. He posted his pen, as you can see. Did that. There's some wear here. Now, how would that happen? How the heck would that happen? It's wear. Maybe he would, hold the cap. Maybe when he was aligning the cap and starting to screw, that scratched it. Maybe putting the cap on the back, he sort of put it together like this, which is entirely possible. It's only on that side. So he's carefully lining up the clip and the lever and the nib and everything. He does this. That's my theory. What would Sherlock Holmes say about that? About Billy? And look, he was at the same St. Valentine's Day massacre as the other guy. One bullet hole. Oh, there's a couple more there. So, what kind of nib does this have? The name like Billy, I think he almost deserves a fatter, broader light stroke, just because sort of makes sense with Billy. So here, Billy, you can see here too, there's some more of that raised corrosion happening underneath. Again, bothers you and you and you and you and you. To me, it's just part of what, it's like lumps in a homemade mashed potatoes. It's just what you have to deal with. Again, this is one of my favorite ones to just look at because the little sparks that happen when you rotate it, little zigzaggy. I'm trying to make it sparkle here. Have the light hit it in the right way. It's just a very it's funny. I like rotating this pen, sort of not focusing on it, and it's just all of these little sparkles happening at different times, and that's very pleasant to me. Looking at the actual pattern and is less interesting. I think one of my favorite patterns to look at is the chevron one here, the wheat, whatever this is called. Todd Merrill, you can explain it in the comments below. I call it a wheat chevron pattern, and partly because this is also used in the skyline caps. So I like the crossover. Another chevron pattern here. Okay, here's another example. This happens quite often with these pens, is the corrosion that we speak of that causes the trauma in the cap also causes a lot of trauma sometimes on the sections. So you'll see just big chunks of the gold that's supposed to be there is missing because the ink and moisture corroded it. I've been known to sort of just file all of this down it's like a dentist where he drills, why do you need to drill a hole in my tooth? Why can't you just fill the cavity? Why do you have to drill it? Well, you have to drill it to make a bigger spot for a bigger chunk of metal to fit, but you also have to make sure you get all the corrosion out of the way. So to file this down, making it flush and even might be a better way to keep the pen healthy than have this bumpy, crooked surface that will more easily hold moisture. Okay, what does, see, this is another lefty on this pen. If we've, W.H. Filio, F-I-L-L-I-O, what a cool name. Italian, I presume. What Italian name starts with a W? Cool. Nice nib in that one. So of these that we just saw, which one would I get? Which one would I say goodbye to? Ignoring the nibs, because I can always do a swap. Seems I have dupes of some of these, but again, they have names. I want to keep the ones that have names. I like names on pens. Call me crazy. When will they stop? Okay, this is another pen that I normally don't like. So the example I have was slammed 3 or 4 times in the Duesenberg car door. But again, if this was a perfect version of this pen, I'd probably be afraid to use it because of the gold and silver on it. The gold was added to the silver metal. S.N. Clark. And often you find these things that are worn away or somehow less pretty. This one seems to be in pretty good shape, except for the barrel being all fucked up. That's the only one of these I have. Another silver one with the vertical chasing I like, and a big number 3 nib. It seems like this nib is too big for the pen. It probably should hold the number 2 nib. But it has a 3 in it right now. EMT, a ding. Springy nib. I really like the silver ones more than the gold, but the silver ones are 4 times rarer. Okay, Todd, Merrill, what pattern is this? You'll know. This is silver fill. See some of the silver wash or the silver plating wearing down on this one. Number 4 nib. Feels like it's a bigger pen than a 4. See, there's that line. Again. Someday after I'm dead, that'll fall apart. A little bit of line here. EOB, another lefty. More of that corrosion there. That favorite pattern of mine, no name. Number 4 nib. See, why does this, are these both the same size? No. This cap, no, that I just, see, this is a way bigger cap. But they both have number 4 nibs, which they shouldn't have. One should be, this one, this nib is too big in this pen. Beer Gustafson, pay attention to what you're doing here. This is a nib that means nothing to me. I occasionally have nibs that mean nothing. This is one of those. This writes like a Schaefer Lifetime nib that you see in almost every Schaefer Lifetime pen. Firm and Johnny One Notey. Ooh. A.E. Baxter, another lefty. Long and elegant. Ding. Lovely. The Greek key pattern. Oh, another lefty, and in silver. ABS. This is a little weird. I think the hard rubber part of this pen expanded somehow, or I don't know, who knows. It's something a little funky about that one. M. McG. M. McGonigal. M. McGuire. M. something. McG. Favorite pattern of mine. A favorite. Lastly, this one. Now, this one has a roller clip. $14K 1/10. Nice nib on this one. I mean, they all have, almost all have nice nibs. There's that one that I was dissing a second ago. Normally they don't have the roller clips, so that one's kind of fun for that reason. Am I done yet? Not nearly. I do have a drawer full, this many pens that have the Greek key pattern in the gold fill pens. And I have them in a separate drawer just because it is one of my favorite patterns. And I like showing folks. I have a small 13 drawer case, each holding maybe 24 pens that show a microcosm of my pen collection. And one of them have lots of different pens of different companies with names engraved on them. Another one drawer is for Schaefer balance pens, all black, but they're all different sizes and shapes that they made. And it's just nice to say, one of the reasons I collect the pens is because of this, all of this variation you see within one particular design. And with the Wall Eversharp pens I was just showing, the metal ones with the Greek key, that's part of my plan, is to say, this is why I have this drawer filled with so many pens, is because of this part of my interest in collecting. Do I need both those drawers, the Schaefer and the Wall Eversharp? The Schaefer also covers I like pens that are all black, or black, we'll call it. They're not all black. They've got gold trim and all that other stuff, but they're essentially with that pen, you can more easily see the distinctive shape. But it also shows you the varieties of that model, which I find interesting. No comments, I guess, this time. I don't know why. Maybe people aren't wide awake yet. I don't know. I'm going to continue to try to put together some pens that I'm going to bring to LA. Hopefully I will bring some really springy Waterman #2 kind of nibs that people will like. I just have to find the right barrel to put them in. A lot of them are Waterman #12s, and I've got dozens of them, but they all have different kind of bands on them, and there's, they're too similar, too different. This is not an example, but some of them, some of them have 2 bands, some have only 1. This one has 3, and this is probably a marriage anyway. Normally, you normally find the decoration on only one part of the pen rather than both. That's not true. What am I talking about? This one has it on both. This is so cute, this one. This was a recent eBay purchase. And though I don't use safety pens, I kind of like the idea of them, but anyway, where are my 12s? Here's a bunch of 12s right now. So how am I supposed to decide which of these I'm going to keep? This is not a 12. This is like a 15 with the wrong cap, but they fit, so I'm leaving it there for the moment. This is a 12. But these are all different. A little bit different. Now, are these different enough? Maybe I can get rid of one of these. These are maybe a little too similar, so I can get rid of one. Is this similar to? Maybe I can get rid of two of these and just keep the one. Well, here's 3, 4. There's 4. So maybe I can get. Maybe I'd be happy to get rid of 3 of them. Maybe. And neither one of these have nibs in them. So I've got nibs I can. This doesn't have a nib either. Why don't they have nibs? There's another one. Okay, now here, this is a nib that you and you and you and you and you will get a little boner over, believe it or not. Why? Because it says ballpoint on the nib. Why does it say ballpoint? Can you see it? Yes, you can. Look at that. Ballpoint. What does that mean? That means this was designed for a lefty. What they did was they sort of had the upturned snout of a Schaefer-Waverly nib, where the shape of the iridium was slightly moved up from where it would normally be, so that if you write with a more angled vertical thing and you're pushing the pen more than pulling it, this would be the nib you'd ask for when you would go to the pen shoppy who had a direct line to the factory. Give me one of those ballpoints again, the guy would say gruffly. Look, boy, am I missing a bunch of nibs. Why am I? Some of these might be 4s rather than 2s, so it's a Waterman 14, or they could be a 13, a very rare model. So any 13 I'll keep. My friend Rob Morrison has one of my 13s, and he's decided it belongs to him now. He's made that decision. I was not consulted in that decision. He just decided that he used it for doing some sort of Harvard, one of those clubs, the Porcellian Club. He would handwrite the vows that all of the Porcellians would take to promise to not tell the secrets of the club to anyone who wasn't a fellow pig. And and he had this beautiful, very springy hairline nib with very springy, very flexible nib. So I said, yeah, you can borrow it. So he borrowed it year after year. I mean, he kept it in his house for years doing these things, and then he moved away. And as I was packing up his stuff, I said, where's my 13, mister? What are you talking about? He said. Why is this 100-year pen shoved in this thing, I wonder? Because it fit, probably. This is Must be a number 5. What are you talking about, Pierre? I said, you know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about, Mr. Morrison. Don't give me any of this. I don't know if he quoted public domain or some law thing or not, but he'd done me many a good turn, so, and the pen is in good hands. This is a beautiful nib. Long and elegant and just a delightful looking pen. This nib another lovely nib, really, really nice nib. So anyway, I will bring 1 or 2 of these to the pen show with me, and I'll try to fit them with really nice. Here's an accountant nib. Really nice flexible nibs that I can sell to people that deserve it. You can start asking yourselves right now whether you deserve it. I try, as you know, I try to match the pen to the hand that's going to use it. And oh, look, this one has initials on it right there. That's a keeper. Is this another ballpoint? Or is this the ballpoint that I already showed you? It's a ballpoint. It says ballpoint on it, so this might be the one I showed you already. But I'll go through these. I'll try to figure out which ones I don't need. And essentially, if these were all 12s, I know they're not, but let's pretend they were all 12s. They're essentially duplicates of each other in my mind. I know that there would be people saying the one with the slightly wider band is blah, blah, blah. Well, goody, good for it. That doesn't interest me. Look, and that's the accountant one. So I have to keep both of those. Oh, and I like this one because this has very simple plating, design. It's just this vertical chasing. So I need to keep that one because it isn't the same design as the others. Number 4. It seems to me that these are the ones they're wet, so I must have already used them and then put them back and took them out again. So anyway, there's these. This one is beautiful. It has, this might be 14 karat gold, and it has a lovely inscription on it. Yes, 14 karat. Marguerite Fuller. Marguerite Fuller. And what did she do? ECS Mary, no, ECS May 6th, 1903. So some sort of school, I imagine, ECS, Eastern Catholic School, or something like that. 1903, lovely little present given to the soon-to-be nun, or whatever she ended up being, mother of dozens of children, or whatever Catholic girls were supposed to do. Seems to me that they were supposed to either turn into a nun or make babies. So these seem to be all of the double banded ones in my collection, and I will go through these and hopefully pull one or two out, maybe even three. And maybe in addition to that, I'll try to find nibs that are really, really flexible and sell them to the people that deserve it. Here's another ballpoint. Oh, this is a way more modern nib. It's a keyhole nib. This one says rounded, which is essentially the same thing. It's also the same as the yellow nib. They were designed for lefties. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure people will point that out to me. Huh. Anyway, I promise one or two of these will. Two. I have to say two. Just make it be two, Pierre. God, I've got a lot of pens missing nibs. When I bought my pen collection, my pen company, it had a bunch of pens that had not been put together. Pens that, and this happened because Fanny Friedman, the woman that owned the store at one point, she was robbed at gunpoint, and she threw ink at the robber, and the robber shot her. She survived, and every day there was news reports on her condition. Fanny, the pen lady, is recovering at St. Mary's Hospital or whatever it was. And anyway, when she did recover, she decided that all of the pens she would take apart. She took the cap and the barrel, she put them in different drawers, and she assumed that people would not steal a pen that wasn't put together. And so when I got a bunch of these pens, they were taken apart. They were not put together. So I had a fun time of putting them together. Why is there tape on the top of this thing? For a second, I thought it was hiding a Stanhope, but it isn't. It's just tape for some reason. Wow, lovely nib on this one too. So anyway, I put these together, and I can find number 2 nibs and replace them. Here's another plain number 2. Otto Yang, I know you want these as well, but you can't have them if I can make a complete pen out of them. He wanted just the barrels and sections, and I do have some of those set aside, but the ones that I can actually turn into a pen I want to keep. This is a Waterman 72, or a POC, or whatever they call it, the screw cap version of an eyedrop filler. One of my pen collector friends, Ernie Drown from New Hampshire. Oh, it's a dummy cap. So this cap with this big old hole in it, that was meant to go on a dummy pen in the front window. So that if you took a brick and threw it through the front window of the pen shop, you would grab the pens and you'd discover that they weren't pens. They didn't have nibs on them, and they didn't have feeds. They probably didn't even have sections. Some of them were glued shut. So that's kind of a neat thing. I do have some dummy pens I might bring to LA with me. I think they were Conklin Crescent or Moore pens. Anyway, back to Ernie Drown. What he said he held up one of these. I think it might have had a clip. It was just like this. And he said, why did Waterman do anything other than this? This is the perfect pen. It worked perfectly. It had 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, 5 parts with the nib, rather. Section, barrel, feed, cap. And if you wanted a clip, you'd have to have 1, 2, 3, 4 more parts put on, the rivets and the rivet plate underneath or whatever, however they're made. But I don't think he was counting necessarily the nib, whether it was there or not, as the perfect pen. But absolutely perfect. Except you had to fill it with an eyedropper. But more importantly, the other change that sometimes happens is when you're holding a pen like this in your hot little hands and you're sitting in the sun and or sitting in front of the sunny window writing your letters, the barrel will heat up and your hand adds to that heat and will transfer to the ink inside and cause the ink to expand, and it may be wet or may drip ink out of the nib. Whereas a pen with a sack, there's air between the barrel and the sack. So there's some insulation there that would get in the way of that direct transfer. Wow, this is a nice nib. Really springy, boingy nib. And this is meant for a calligrapher. A calligrapher will get this pen out of my dead fingers one day. And the reason why a calligrapher would want that pen is it's very fine and flexible, but it has a really sharp return. It goes right back to zero really, really fast. And that's the thing that a lot of calligraphers really like about Victorian tip pen nibs. Oh, another accountant nib. How many accountant nibs do you think I need? I must have 20, and I don't need 20. But they are very different from each other. Some are pricklier, some are a little more flexible-er. And some are just like an accountant nib, except they don't say account or accountant. Harry Hirschman owned this pen. Was he a lefty? Yep, he was a lefty. That Harry was. Nice springy nib on that one. JHS. Nib looks too big in that one. Perfect pen. These are really just great. Ooh, a stub nib. Look at that. Number 3, stub nib. Does it have a 3 on the back? It does. So this is a rare 13. I don't know how long they made 13s, but not very long. I think they were just too similar to a 2, so why bother? Or they were unlucky. Craig Roccanova, why did they stop making a 13? But it's a 13 and a stub. The pen that Rob Morrison has of mine is a 13. But I know some of these nibs. I don't actively use these pens, so I could easily probably sell all of these nibs and not even know that I did it because I don't commune with these pens very often. And I don't even use Waterman 52s so much anymore. But they were the go-to pen. I would go to a pen show and I would look for 52s because I knew almost all of them had nibs that I would like, and because they're relatively common pens, I was able to get them relatively inexpensively. Oh, there's that guy. He likes Waterman number 2s. And the pen collectors would laugh. I could hear them laughing. I could hear them laughing at me. They still laugh at me. They laughed at me when I was buying Skylines too. There's a Waterman Star nib for those people that like that kind of thing. Another Waterman Star nib. Another 72, or whatever they call it. 12 POC. This nib is more modern than this pen should have. It's a circle breather hole rather than a heart-shaped one. But anyway, it fits in here and it's happy, so let it be. Another screw pen here. Ooh. Number 2, this will be a nice springy one. Yeah, I think I will bring some of these to the show. And let me know. Find me. I'll be there. But you're not going to get this one. This one still has the red wax in the breather hole. Yeah. You know what that means. I don't have to tell you. Okay, where does this cap go? A nice black chased pattern. Sometimes the chasing doesn't match on these things, so I end up having to more of that red stuff. Yeah, you like that, don't you? 14. Why is that one right? Did I play with these already? I must have played with these. See, I did play with these. I remember that clip. Camp looks thinner. It is the right cap, though. Well, I've got pens needing nibs, and I've got nibs I can put in these things, and I can bring them to the show. So is that dummy one? Is that the same dummy one I just showed you? Might be. Probably was. Another number 4. This nib this looks like the beak of, Woody Woodpecker when he runs into the telephone pole. It's like that. Not to that degree, but boy, is that a nice nib, though. See, this is an example of a nib that, yes, look at it. It's zigzaggy, but it writes right now. It writes perfectly. It just is exactly doing what it can do. It's doing its best, and I know I can make it look prettier, but there are chances when you're burnishing a nib and straightening it with your pliers and your fingers and saying all of the incantations that you say, which are secret, by the way. Only pen collectors, pen repairmen know this, know the right God to pray to. That you might screw it up. And it might look pretty, but it might not write as nice. The tines aren't as tight. And anytime you even repairing a bent nib by straightening it, there's weakening that's going on by doing that. Isn't that correct? Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but you are bending an already bent piece of metal, but you're bending it, and that is going to that's going to weaken it to a degree. This is one of those examples where the section and end of the barrel are ribbed for my pleasure. They keep your fingers tight to the, they reduce slipping down, and you've seen all of these pens, and you've seen only one of these so far, so they are rarer. I know you'll find some collectors saying, oh, I have a dozen of those things. Yeah, okay, show me 2 of them. Oh, I don't know where they are. Okay, I'll let you rephrase your statement about having a dozen. Tell the truth now. Have you even seen a dozen of them? Your thoughts? Do you have bragging rights to that degree? How long have you been a pen collector? Do you go to every show? Do you look at every eBay auction? Now, there's some things that are rare, and they should wow even the most jaded collector. And That particular thing is rare. Does it make it more valuable? Probably not. It should, but probably not. Is this the one I just showed you? The one that ran into the tree? Or is this a different one that ran into a tree? The zigzaggy one. Right's like the zigzaggy one, so maybe I did put it back. I keep putting these things back and then taking them out again, making it seem like I have more. Often you'll see number 4 Waterman nibs that are cracked in the back in the more nib fashion. It's because some chump who didn't say the right incantation to the pen repair god crammed a number 4 nib in a number 2 barrel. The barrels are the same size. 2s, 3s, and 4s are the same diameter. Everything looks the same except the feed and the hole are bigger in a number 4, and it says 4 on the back. But if you don't look at the back and you just grab a barrel, and of course the sections are the same. You can screw a number 4 section into a number 2 barrel any day of the week. But that's where you often will find number 4 nibs broken. No nib. Nib no cap. I know how I can rectify this situation. Anyway, clearly I have my work cut out for me, and I'll do this in the privacy of my own home rather than on camera. This is a lovely pen, and I should find a nice smooth barrel, except this is too fat. I want a smooth number 12 barrel without a clip. This one, there. Look at that, perfect. Maybe I'll find one that's a little darker. This has a big gold band on it, as you can see, and an engraving on it, which says press event, presented, God, really bad kerning, presented to T.M. Riley by St. Mary's Council, K of C, Knights of Columbus, number 55918, July 8th, 1912. And this was engraved and then brought back to the engraver to do it right, and they fucked it up. It's the presented to was done after this was engraved. Everything is centered and in beautiful script. And then why would he bring this back? Was it done by the recipient, do you think? Well, here's what you would think. hold on. I just want to see if the word by was added. If it said his name and St. Mary's Council, it might imply that this guy was a member of the Knights of Columbus. But because it says presented to this guy by that, then it would mean that the owner was not a member. So does it look like that was done differently? It does, actually. See, these are things that I find really, really fun about pens that are personalized. Not that I care anything about the Knights of Columbus or this particular person, but I like the idea that there is a deducible history, deductible history that you can find in something like this without having to look anything up on the interweb. The fact that presented to is done in a different font, different typeface, and not centered, and the word by is done more clumsily than the other lettering, tells a fun little story. And the word by, again, is the size of the script is different from the script that came before it. So again, I think probably the owner of this pen, the person that this was a gift to, he was showing it off to his friends, and they'd say, well, I didn't know that you were the Knights of Columbus. And he said, well, I'm not. I'm a Shriner, but I did work for them. I cleaned their gutters one day or whatever he did. So in order to not have to answer that question over and over and over again, he just had the word presented to and the word by, and then he didn't have to. How's that for a theory? Do you like that? God, I'm talking for an hour and a half about nothing. Do any of these caps fit this better? That's too big. That's just right. Look at that. Does it work on the back? Yes. Beautiful. So this is now going to move into my drawer that I have pens with engravings on it, because it's a nice little story to go along with that. What are your thoughts? A keeper. Really nice nib on this too. Anything else over here that we haven't seen? Who knows? This is what I'm going to be doing today, going through these in the privacy of my own home. Will I allow you to watch me do it? I'm not sure. It might be fun to have people commenting about Waterman 12s. God, what a nice nib this is. Bye.